messages. What chat is that?
Oh, that's the chat.
Oh, the chat.
Chat. Well, it's still Shabbat.
Wait a second.
Oops. We began the day together this morning with our Shabbat service with Shavuot and Yizkor, remembering all the people whose lives given us meaning, appreciating the fact that 4 times a year we add an opportunity to remember all the people upon whose shoulders we stand. And today was Shabbat and Chag for the Jewish community. And for many people across America, it was a day of protest, a day to leave our comfort zones and join in the streets, on the highways, in front of police stations, to join together and to say enough is enough. And to hope that the voices will be heard. This is a country that was born by protest, born by rising up against the oppressor, against those who would keep all the power for themselves. And so once again, we are trying to raise voices and stand together for justice, for what's right. The protest in St. Louis today began at the Justice Center in Clayton. We can actually see the Justice Center from where we're sitting right now on our porch. And we could hear the cries for justice. It was a peaceful protest. It looked to me like there were maybe over 1,000 people who gathered together, a very diverse crowd of people who have known each other for years through the protest community and people who joined for the first time. And they took to the highway and marched down Forest Park and into the Loop area and just praying. And maybe it's good that we're together so that we can pray that as the sun sets and we leave this sacred time of Shabbat for us, that the night will also be peaceful. So, I'm going to sing us in.
The life of all the worlds, Yaribon Alam, Almaya, Unto Malcolm, Mahaya, Yaribon Alam, Almaya, unto Malcolm, Mahaya. Guru Guru Te Haya Shvakoyama Lehachavaraya to the life of all the worlds. Yaribon Alam Almaya Antu Malka Melech Mahaya Yaribon Alam Almaya Antu Malka Melech Mahaya. I wonder what it's like in Gilbert, Arizona tonight. Yaribon Alam Almaya Antu Malka Mahaya.
We see you, Charlie.
Yaribon Alam Almaya Antu Malka Yaribon Alam Yaribon Alam Yaribon
This is the time between. It's a sacred time. It's a time that things are built in. It's like in the very beginning, right? All of the things that needed to be built into creation were built in just now. It's not Shabbat anymore, and it's not quite the next day. It's this in-between time when things are possible. Maybe this is the time that our prayers are most deeply heard, so that we can pray across the nation for a peaceful night. I remember the days, all those many, many days and weeks and months that we were in Ferguson, that the days were peaceful, but there was a moment at night when everything shifted. And those were the times we had to be most vigilant, to keep the message clear, but to keep the peace. And so that's what we're going to pray for tonight, that voices are heard, that the vigilance of what needs to change will be called for, but that we can find a way to do this without hurting each other more. And so let's build in more things. There was a double rainbow the other day. A rainbow was one of those things that was built in between the times. What else was built in? The talking donkey of Bilam. What else
Donkey.
was built? Donkey. What else was built in? Do you remember?
Tzvat b'tzvat asuya. The tongs. To make tongs. The shamir, the little worm, built the pyramids. Tshuva preceded creation. The mouth of Bilam, the animal that spoke when it needed to speak.
So what else would you have built in right now, if you could. Built in this magical time. It's no longer day, but not yet night. Maybe peace. We should sing a prayer for peace. Let's build in under peace. What do you say?
שים שלום טובה וברכה, שים שלום טובה וברכה, peace and goodness and blessings, שים שלום טובה וברכה, שים שלום טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים, רחמים, graciousness and mercy and rachamim, heavy duty rachmonas, have a little rachmonas on us, won't you please, sim shalom, make peace, tova uvaracha, and goodness and blessing, it's a tunnel to the heart of the world. Sim shalom tova uvaracha, sim shalom tova uvaracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim, chen v'chesed, have a little rachmonas on us. Sim shalom tova 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 uvaracha, it's a tunnel to the heart of the world. Tunnel to the heart of the world. It's a tunnel to the heart of the world.
So we go together every Saturday night and kind of wait and watch. It's kind of nice to be able to do this outside because we really feel the sun setting. We can really feel what it means to let go of the extra soul that we've received on this Shabbat. What it means to let go of this taste of the world to come. It's been a sad day. Even with the lifting of Shabbat. You know, we're not supposed to mourn on Shabbat. But it's hard. It's hard in this time. And I know lots of us are thinking about George Floyd, who we've come to know. We've come to know these past days, reading about him, feeling his last moments so profoundly as they've been shared with us and shared with so many. I can't breathe, he said. And I think it's hard not to connect that to this virus that takes away people's breath. In St. Louis, we got to know Mike Brown, Von Derek Myers, Anthony Lamar Smith, so many that have been taken from us like that. They've become like family to us. And I think that's what we have to do. We have to claim them as our own.
המבדיל בין קודש לחול, חטאותינו ימחו. המבדיל בין קודש לחול, חטאותינו ימחו. לכבודכם דת לבבי, אליהו הנביא. לכבודכם דת לבבי, אליהו הנביא.
Eliyahu comes to protect us as we separate the holy from the profane. We know we're not alone. And one day, we will all be so connected that Eliyahu will come and tell us it's time. I had forgotten this story, but as I see my friend Charlie looking for stories and looking for answers, I want to tell you a story. It was one night when it was getting late in the streets of Ferguson, and we got a call on our phones that someone else had been shot, another young man, Von Derek Myers. And so we all got in our cars and we left the streets of Ferguson and we drove to Shaw, the Shaw neighborhood in South St. Louis. And people gathered and we cried. Reverend Tracy Blackman led us in a ritual to reclaim the space where he had died. And then, people were trying to be respectful of the space and of his family. His grandmother was there. And I found myself standing with his mother. And people would begin to gather, and all the clergy were kind of offering stories. And I told the story about Nachshon, who jumped in the sea to part the sea, a story we all know. But I added that I didn't really think that's what parted the sea. I said, I think what really parted the sea was not this child jumping in, getting in up to here, wanting to help so desperately, but it was everybody else getting in after him, going in after that one child. It wasn't their child. It wasn't even related to them. They didn't know that child, but everybody was willing to get in up to here to save that one child. And that, I believe, is what parted the sea. And at that moment, Von Derek's mom, Sarita, looked up at me and she said, "Rabbi, I have a question and I have a request." She had just lost her child. I said, "Anything." She said, "Don't let them turn my son into a thug." That's the word she used. She said, "Make sure no one ever calls him a thug." And I promised her that I and all the people that I know, all the people that I gather with, that we would never, never let anyone other another person's child ever call them a thug, ever diminish their light in any way. So it's those relationships, it's those moments when we show up that we can make a difference. And I know it's hard now because many of us, it's too dangerous for us to be out there, even with masks on. But we're showing up for each other in so many ways. I know we have to do better, and we will do better because people are paying attention. And one more little thing that was kind of cool for St. Louis. One of the protesters 6 years ago, he was fighting for 15. He worked at one of the sandwich shops, one of the fast food places. His name was Rasheen Aldridge. Rasheen was just a fast food worker then, but there was something special about him, you could tell. And he showed up every day. And today, he was leading the protest as a state representative. So, we are doing better. We still have a long way to go to make sure that Black Lives Matter. So for the let go of Shabbat, enter into the days of the week, we'll get back to work.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei Yisrael Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei meorei ha'ir Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamavdir ben kodesh lechut tinok u'shir Yisrael yamim sheshem b'yamaseh Baruch atah Adonai Hamatir ben kodesh lechut Eliyahu
Hanavi Eliyahu
Hatishbi Eliyahu
Eliyahu Hadi Bimera Ve'yamin Eloheinu Mashiach ben David Mashiach ben David Eliyahu Hanavi Eliyahu Hatishbi Eliyahu
Ben David. Really, I wanna be her, teach me. Really, I wanna be her, gila. Oh, yavo, Mashiach, Ben David. We are always waiting, we are always waiting, we are always waiting, we are waiting, we are waiting.
Shavua Tov. Wish each other a Shavua Tov, a good week. Let it be a week of justice that brings peace. Let it be a week where we remember that we can build back the businesses and the buildings, and we will, but we can't bring back the lives. Let us always remember what is most important. Every life has infinite worth. We don't know the name of the protester that died last night, but we do know many, many names. From Mike Brown to Von Derrett to Sandra Bland, so many. And now to George Floyd. May their memories be for a blessing. And as we go into this next week, we know it will be another challenging week for this nation. In the midst of everything, we blasted people into space today. And we came back to the streets where people are, God willing, going to continue to call for justice, to call for the kind of change that we have been aching for, kind of equity, kind of systems that treat everyone with dignity and with infinite worth. So, we say to all of you, let it be a Shavua Tov, a good week, a week of peace. Amen. See you next week. Shavua Tov.